part of southern England that is just absolutely stuffed with history and interesting places. So I thought I'd do a little sort of new playlist of going and having a look at some of these places. The one we're going to today is called Old Sarum Castle. And why is it interesting? Well, there's been evidence of habitation there since 3000 BC. The castle itself, which is an earthworks, was built about 400 BC, and it was used up to about, I think, 1540 when Henry V sold the place. And there's knights jousting there, so an added attraction. I haven't seen that for a long time. So let's go and have a look, see what we've got. So this is inside the castle, and you can see how much it does actually dominate the landscape. Salisbury down there, and that's the rest of the castle up there. If you're interested, I think roughly over that way is Stonehenge. This would have been sort of vaguely contemporaneous and would have had something to do with it. But look at the crowds. This is where all the jousting and bashing is going to take place, apparently. And there's a nice signboard that explains a bit more about it. Here's how it would actually have looked. So all in all, old and interesting. The sort of field we've been in, and this would be part of the outer defences. See how tall that is? Most of this would have been dug out with like shoulder bones from antelope stuff. It's just amazing, isn't it? How long would it have taken? Dotted around there's various re-enactors. As you'd expect from a sort of an event like this. If there is anything interesting, we're going to have a look. And there's a couple of stalls over there selling like tat, really. Let's go and have a look at the re-enactors.
We bought about a dozen eggs with us. We had about a dozen eggs at the beginning of the weekend. We've got 3 left, so we're just going to boil them. I've got a small one.
Yeah? Right, pikes are about 13 to 18 foot spears. Yeah.
For reasons not entirely understandable, there's a bloke doing fire eating. I'm not exactly sure it's a medieval sport, but there we go. Keeps kids entertained. Talking of which, children's archery as well.
Century, the Flemish burghers used it against
More
the
weapons.
French. The French horsemen attacked, charging. At that stage, knights are still wearing mail armour predominantly. The Flemish stopped the horses with the spear points, knocked the knights off the horses. At the end of the battle, they went amongst the injured and asked if they needed help. Supposedly, anyone answering in a French accent, they said, "Guten Tag," threw the mail, finished them off. 500 pairs of gold-covered spurs were collected after the battle and placed in a local cathedral as an act of thanks to God for the victory.
More of the re-enactors kit.
Because what we do when we're fighting by this barrier, we don't move around too much, so the weight of it just keeps on.
It's interesting, just been talking to one of the knightly re-enactors about his armour and the kind of kit they're wearing. These people are really passionate, they really do love their subject. If you ever get a chance to talk to them, please do. It's sometimes fairly hard to get away from them though. Something I did spot from having a look just up on one of these ramparts up here is the chalk. And there's a lot of thinking now that when these places were built, the turf wouldn't have been here, so it would have been quite a brilliant white for a long time, and would have been visible from a long way away, so it would have been a symbol of power as well, as possibly refuge, or who knows. See why they picked up this hill though, can't you? What a staggering set of views over Salisbury, really, instead of just now dominating the scenery. It's the fire eater doing this thing again. I'd have to say he has been really entertaining, really sort of all the crowd up.
It's over here, okay? they're shin pads. Okay, who plays football? Okay, you don't want to get kicked in the shins, do you? It hurts. Okay, so they're not called shin pads, though. We call them greaves. But that's what they do. They protect the front part of your shins. Okay, it's very, very good piece of metal. It goes all the way around. Different types of greaves. So the ones that Joseph Cordor has had here. And the reason for it is whenever we have armour made, and all of our armourers here are made specifically for us, we have it made to suit how we like to move around and suit how we like to wear it. And basically, and it's mostly kind of easy representation of it, you will always have a choice. You either are more protected or you're more mobile. And it's a simple going around the back of the leg. The reason we don't like that is because you feel really enclosed when you're around the back of the greaves. And when you're out here on the tournament field, we're not hook around the back of your leg. It makes it a lot more protected from the side. So you've got the queese at the top, Pauline's which are the knees, and the greaves which are the bottom. Now, whilst we repeat this section again to the next now, this is that corner I was going to say that we're going to cut. In a moment, you're going to see over here, Sergio's going to put his arms into his jacket and his metal arms are already going to be a part of it. Now, we wouldn't have done that back in the Middle Ages. He would cut his army jacket on and then the arms would have been tied onto it after that point. The reason we don't do that is just because of the time. It's going to take up over 15 minutes or so worth of that, and there's always things happening after us here. We don't want you guys to miss out on something because we've spent too much time over it. Quite interesting to notice that they sit in a very specific place. The reason for it is if in a pan. The reason for this is that if you look down the length of his leg harness, he's got lots of horizontal straps. Horizontal straps are keeping them on their body. However, they're not very good at keeping them in the right place because the more he moves around, the heaviness or the weight, as they say in England, okay, of the armour is going to start jumping up and down like so. The more he jumps back on, so we know who he is, and then he's going to put on this next piece of protection. Now this here is what we'd call mail. Children, you're going to call it chain armour because you play Minecraft, okay? Most people call it chain mail. We never used the word chain at all. We just used to call it mail. Mail was an old word meaning to mesh. So if you look at it, lots of little individual rings that have all been meshed together, knitted together to make up one big piece. Now he's still holding here for a few seconds because he knows that I like to draw your attention to him whilst he shimmies into his little mini skirt. Now, the reason this is mail, okay, mail is good, okay, it doesn't protect you as good as the plate because it moves around so much, it's got those...
Recognise them as today. Now, the laws of the tournament that you see fought today were laid down about that same time, but actually by an English knight, Sir William Marshall, who was possibly the finest knight that ever lived. Now, how do you get to be a knight? Well, the bad news for you lot all sat there thinking, I'm going to change my stars and become a knight. You can't, because you're all peasants. Right.
Breastplate is what most people call it, and it's our most simple term for it. However, technically we would call it a cuirass instead, especially when it's got the back plate. However, most of our knights going out there on the battlefield, we're not going to wear our back plate today, okay? Because if we wear the back plate, we're not going to get hit in the back. It's not in the tournament rules, not allowed to do it. Okay, so we don't have to worry about it. So why would we wear that extra weight? Why would we hinder ourselves in the way that we don't? So what we do instead is we take off our back harness and we just keep it on the front. The breastplate is a thing, but it's the bit at the back over here. This part's covered by the leather. This part here down the centre, this triangular section is actually called a placard. Then you've got folds at the front or lames, and these here again riveted sections, which means he can actually bend forwards. He can lift his legs up without the metal digging into the top of his legs. And then we have these. To do that though, he's going to put a bit of padding on top of his head. Very stylish. Let the birds are go. And then he puts on his lid. This type of helmet is called a sallet, okay, or a sallet. So you'll see that goes on top of his head, the strap goes across the back. These helmets are pretty much famous by most of our knights in the 15th century. They are incredible. There's different variations. You'll see that Sir Anthony wears a bar boot instead, okay, but most of us like our sallets instead. The reason for it, when it clips down the visor like so, you get pretty good vision out the front, okay, you clip on your leather, you've got lots of protection there. However, who's got the time?
That whole dress in the night thing took about 20 minutes. It was obviously a little bit longer with all the nattering. Now let's go and actually have a look inside the castle. We've actually been here about an hour and a half, and we're finally going to go and have a look inside the castle. So there we go. This is what it would have looked like eventually, after being developed from an earthworks to a castle.
Can you see what it used to look like? Does you have a picture? There used to be an archway here. This was the front door. might have been a drawbridge. I don't know.
That summed it up quite nicely, didn't it? So that's where we just come in. And it is a lot more castle-like than I actually thought. I've only seen it from the outside, where you can see the earthworks, and not a lot else. It's a surprisingly honest appraisal.
Scary.
Another bit I didn't know about this. I'm learning a lot. I just thought it was a great big earthworks. The term castle was quite often used, still is actually used for just earthworks, but there was actually a proper castle here, which I never knew. This is a voyage of discovery. And that is going to be most of the castle. Look. There we go. A bit slightly disjointed, but we're just walking around looking at the signs. Let's see what they say. What time out's going to be. Not entirely sure. I don't think it's got nothing to do with baseball. There's another big bit of wall. Just read this slowly. That's quite amazing, isn't it? 70 metres, 230 feet. A very strong grille to stop people falling down it. One thing I do like about English heritage, and there's a lot to dislike, but there's a lot to like as well, is just how many informative boards there actually are. And here's another one, again complete with lots of different drawings as to how things would have looked. And we are one of the privileged few. Let's go and have a look at the rest of these bits of castle. It's the King's Great Tower. Now here is, I think, the original Salisbury Cathedral, which was, I think, Norman. This is the remains of the royal residence. Who would have been in there? Henry I. And that's back to the King's Tower. How cool is that? And I tell you what, that sign ain't wrong. I was mistaken, it's actually Old Sarum Cathedral, which was originally, or was planted by Salisbury Cathedral. But yeah, that is, I like that. And this view, again, just an idea of how huge this site actually was. That wall that runs around here. I mean, the castle and the cathedral, for goodness sake, it's huge. And there we go. If you're as juvenile as I am, this will be one of the most interesting parts of the whole castle. I've been in other castles where basically there's sort of what's called a long drop. Over the castle wall, there's basically a bit that juts out with a hole in it. This is somewhat more luxurious. Although, probably not very warm. And a busy courtyard it certainly is again. I think there's a lot of visitors because of the jousting, but it certainly is busy. And what's great is lots of kids walking around with swords and armour and helmets and stuff, battling each other. It's quite entertaining. So we're going to have a nice cup of tea. And watch some knights battling. The crowd can cheer various people as well. So various kids holding different coloured flags. Oh, not very knightly. Two more knights. This is a tournament, so it is just knights playing, really. There is something quite funny about a crowd in 2023 watching knights, and a big crowd at that. Watching knights battling away. This is the semi-final. And with a rather brilliant backdrop of Salisbury Castle, we have our knights now using warhammers. And children get in the way. I bet that was a problem with the original tournaments as well. The earlier part of the history of this place. You can see these sort of double ramparts go all the way around, and we're going to have a stroll along the top of it. Still absolutely amazes me, all this all dug by hand. As we said, extremely crude tools. So we've been walking about 20 minutes so far, finding lots and lots of these trees. This one in particular has got quite a lot, although it might be a bit dark. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's a bit dark. Definitely looks like a sort of back door into the fort, which lines up quite nicely with what we saw there as the back door of the castle. Now we're into the sort of the cathedral field. And this is what the cathedral would have looked like, if you can try and imagine it. Demolished in 1220 from the new one in Salisbury, which you can't quite see from here. And this is pretty much all that remains of it, and it wasn't known about until about 1834, when people started noticing sort of vague outlines in the grass. It's notable now for aerial archaeology. You can see all sorts of strange patterns. So this was excavated and then found to be a huge, hidden, forgotten cathedral. That's back to the entrance to the castle. And again, these huge banks. I guess it would have been the hill first of all. They've sort of just dug that out. Quite often these banks were steeper and the bottom's deeper than they are now. Again, some magnificent views. I don't suppose that's at the top of their minds by any means, but it's on my mind today. And a bit more history about the place that I knew absolutely nothing about. Ordnance Survey. One of the absolutely most wonderful things.
Oh my god!
And there's just a little view again of how steep and deep these ramparts can actually be. And let's have a last look across at the whole thing. A really interesting place to come, and made all the more better for having these knights in attendance, and the crowds, I think. I was expecting to be quiet, very windswept, very windswept. But it's actually turned out to be a lot more interesting, a lot more history than I thought. Final bit, we're actually outside the castle walls now, and these are them a bit closer up. Quite big, aren't they? An invading army would have had quite a time. Anyway, that's Sarum Castle.